3, 1. Well, I guess we're live. You know, I would imagine that we're live. Oh, look at that. Oh, Richard, you're reading a what? What are you reading, dude? Like,
I just got this in the mail. It's pretty cool. It's the Acropovic book. They do
well,
it's like a picture book with some stories. It's pretty freaking cool. I wish magazine guys were like this. Like it's got like World Superbike and like a shaker for Formula One. Delara. So it's got like really cool stuff about all kinds of different racing. Like pictures and here's some Formula car type stuff, some prototype car. Of course, you got some MotoGP stuff, some really nice photography.
Right on.
Yeah.
So that book's like the.
To you after I finish reading this.
Oh yeah. Well, what's up, everybody? This is Talkin Motorbikes. This is the Ask a Superbike Genius section. And I'm on with Richard Stanboli from the Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha Racing team, presented by Attack Performance. And he just put his Acropovic book down. So I guess the Acro book is like one of those, hey, look how awesome we are books that they send you every year, or is that?
Maybe a little bit. I think they call it a lifestyle magazine.
Right on.
A lifestyle is racing, I mean, everyone should have a racing lifestyle.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's...
And they have a thing called Spoiler Alert, where they built this, like, they have a carbon shop, so they built a spoiler for a car, and they do a lot more than people think. They're
yeah.
Not just motorcycle exhaust. As a motorcycle exhaust company, Slavko, he runs a racing. I think he runs the whole damn thing almost, but he's pretty much involved in the R&D, MotoGP, World Superbike, and things like that. And he was at the shop, and we talked quite a bit about it. I'd like to go visit them this winter. I think it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Get a little feedback from your computer speaker there, buddy. But it is amazing when you hear a company like that doing other stuff. I remember when Yoshimura had all those buildings, I remember going over there and they were doing some carbon fiber stuff for SpaceX,
Right.
So, I mean, they do a lot of stuff, these exhaust companies, because the regulators are always trying to do things to make it so their exhausts are illegal, So.
Yeah, is that better with the speaker?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's because I had my big speakers on. Now I'm down to my little speakers. I can barely hear you. Sound like a mouse, but that's okay.
Well, that's what you say anyway, even in person.
Yeah. You're
Right?
scared like a mouse.
Wow, dude. Well, only when I ride your bike.
Yeah.
But it's not really scared of riding. It's scared of if I crash it, what you'll do to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
What's funny is anytime somebody pops on the bike, they go, man, this thing is a little easy to ride. Like they expected this thing to rip their arms off. It's like, no, it's supposed to be easy to ride so you can ride it hard.
Yeah, it's, I was quite a bit heavier, and, the biggest thing that I remember from riding your bike the last time was that I felt like a fat slug on the thing, and I felt late to everything because the thing ate up ground so much. And I was like, dude, all my brake markers are way off because your brakes work better. Everything worked better, and so as a result, I went slower than I went on a school bike.
So now you're just a thin slug.
Now I'm just a thin slug. Exactly. You know what, man? I'm all right with it. Whatever.
Yeah. Better be a thin slug than a fat slug.
That is a fact.
Did we just violate all types of, I don't know, modern rules on behavior?
I don't remember having any rules on this show, actually.
No, you don't. But society these days, they seem to want to throw rules at you every 5 seconds.
Yeah, they can change the channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. So, you know what? You just obviously you're a couple of days out from that round at the Ridge up in Washington. Looks like that track where they carved a racetrack out of the forest, right?
It's a pretty cool place. I mean,
it is.
Washington's okay, if you don't mind the Olympia, but the capital. But I was a Washington fan. All the Fort Lewis area and Mount Rainier and all that. You just can't really pay much attention to Seattle and Olympia.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of nonsense there, obviously. And last time I was there was with you, and it was during like the summer of rioting and stuff.
Can
So
you imagine coming from California? I was shocked at the gas prices up there.
was it higher?
They're more than here.
Really?
Yeah, everything's over five. Five would be like a good deal,
Really?
like low fives. I mean, it was like crazy money.
Huh. That's interesting.
No wonder there's so many people living on the street.
There's a lot of that here too, right? It's weird.
Yeah, well, it's a little better than San Francisco, but it's not much.
Right. Right. Well, it's like northern San Francisco, kind of up Seattle, right? So
Yeah, a lot of NorCal people moved up there, I think.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. So the Ridge, wow, right? I mean, it's kind of like you guys, your team, kind of is up and down. One side of the tent is was on the struggle bus pretty much most of the weekend, and then the other side was like business as usual for the most part.
yeah, for the most part, I think. Which side do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's talk about practice and qualifying, right? I mean, looks like the start of the weekend, it was the Jake Gagne show, right? All the way until Q2, where Heron threw down a flyer. Like, holy shit, where'd that lap come from?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what do you want me to say about that? He did a good job.
Yeah,
So I think he's found some comfort in the mentality that I always got from Heron was that he works best when he's the sole rider on the team. Like even when
yeah,
he was the Scheibe team, the older bike, he had some pretty good runs on that thing, right?
yeah,
For what the team had to offer,
yeah,
from the I guess the level the team had, the amount of testing and this and that. So I think he did a decent job on that. He did a decent job on our bike in 18 when he was the sole rider there. I think we could have captured second in the championship that year if we didn't break the bike in half at Utah.
right.
And so that cost us some points, and that was just enough to get us to third of the championship. So I think the mentality for him is if he's the sole guy and you're giving him all the attention, he functions well. But when he was on our team with Jake in 21, he thought he was going to step on to Cameron Bobier's bike and just win everything and leave Jake behind because he's beat Jake before on our
Right.
bike. 18 or whenever it was. I think 18 Jake might have been World Superbike, but on Superstock bike, he earlier than that,
Yeah.
16 he beat Jake. So uh, anyway, I think he functions well in that environment, and so if he's the sole guy and you give him a bunch of attention, then
Yeah.
you probably get some good results out of him.
Yeah. So I mean, Jake qualified P2, and then Cam, I think he was P4, but he had a couple of crashes. Like the news guys, Greg White and Jason were talking about how Cam was sick. So you want to talk a little
Yeah,
bit
I
about
mean,
that?
I came in the truck, and he was laying down on the couch, and I'm like, "Hey, man, what's a long night or what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I got food poisoning." He was really sick and couldn't do a bunch of laps on Friday. Well, he tried, but it's, "Oh man, I'm just not with it." You can tell he had a long face, and then uh, I don't know. I don't know if it was nerves or the food or what happened to him, but he was completely shot on Friday. And so that changed on Saturday. But on Friday, he ended up, I think, in Q1, had a crash coming down the hill,
Yeah.
and that ended Q1 a little bit early. But he was on a really good run. I mean, that thing should have probably been provisional pole.
Yeah.
So he's got the pace. I don't know if you call it the pace. He's got the speed.
Yeah.
The pace is something people say, oh, he's got the pace. Well, you don't have the pace, you have the speed. You can have the speed or pace or both. You got
Right.
speed and pace. So I think he's got the speed. He needs to show the pace. He needs to be healthy.
Yeah.
And that weekend just wasn't, the cards weren't there. Like the previous year, he finished second and third. He
Yeah.
swapped spots with Petrucci and basically raced him the whole time.
Right.
And it just seems like this year we just can't. I hate to tag the whole year with it because every race is new,
Right.
and we haven't been able to put together everything perfectly with regards to him this year so
Yeah.
far.
Well, I mean, from like you said, from Friday on, like he just didn't seem to get going, and
Well, Friday kind of, yeah.
Crashing twice in the same corner in that weekend. That's
Well, it happens. I've done that before. At Big Willow, I crashed twice the
turn
same
three,
day
turn
in the
three.
same corner.
Yep.
So turn five, exit of five, high
Okay.
side.
That was the other option. Turn three or turn five.
Yeah, you had those back then. You had those Michelin tires that were like grip, 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 fly through the air.
Yes.
You remember the high side
I,
tires?
that was my first one. I did that. So yeah,
Yeah, was
totally.
that on a Michelin?
It was.
Yeah,
Yep.
and even much later on than me, but back then, yeah. I mean, I think Scott Gray was like remember that guy, Scott Gray?
No, he was gone by then.
He
When I
worked
was
for
running
Yost for a
Michelin,
bit.
Chuck Graves was the Michelin guy.
Yeah, that was. I think Scott Gray might have still been buying the tires to give them to Chuck, or something weird like that. I think I was thinking about doing tires back then too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just a thought. And I looked at the margins. I'm like, who the hell would want to be a tire guy? Look at these margins. Can't make any money.
Yeah.
You make like $2 a tire. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, somehow Dennis Smith did it for a long time. With the
Yeah,
Dunlop name.
Dennis, good old Dennis Smith. Yeah.
That dude sit there and laugh. He'd sit there and smile at you with a cigar in his mouth while selling you whatever.
Yeah, somebody's used tires.
Yeah, that too. I bought a lot of takeoffs from that dude when I first started racing. Just
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, Scott Gray would always have this special Michelin tire, and he'd be like, "Oh, this Michelin tire is great." And next thing you know, you're flying through the air. This thing's got so much grip. Ah!
yeah.
Why am I so much higher than my bike?
Wow, that's an interesting view, right? I didn't know my front tire looked like that. Yep.
Yeah. So, needless to say, back to now.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible to crash in the same corner twice.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the problem is you end up getting a little bit head screwed from
Right.
that. And so come after you had a crash in race one, we thought we had it all. So he crashes in qualifying. So we make some changes to the bike, and in Q2 when he thinks the bike feels really great,
Yeah.
it's going over the bumps better, and he goes and does it again in the race, and basically cancels himself out of the race. And so at that point he's like, "What am I doing wrong?" And then of course there's always something you're doing wrong, right? That's where you crash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're able to pinpoint it, but by the time race two got around, he just was so slow in that corner that he'll
Yeah.
tell you we were just crawling through there.
Yeah.
Bobby just yarded him coming off of there, and I mean, Cam was really fast, Peterson, coming off that corner, but by the time times and
Right.
it was like,
Yeah. I
there's no
mean,
problem to get through there.
your photographer Sarah took a couple of good shots of Cam in the pits, and it looked like maybe one of them was Friday and one of them Saturday post race. And it's
Yeah,
like when you say that picture's worth 1,000 words, the look on CP's face, man, I was like, that
yeah,
tells the whole story in both the pictures. One of them, he's talking to Darren Marshall, and then the other one, you're standing there with your arms folded, like, you know, but the look
yeah.
on.
I'm trying to fold my arms to push the big belly I have back down.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, all these late nights with the crew is not doing well for my physique.
Yeah, get you a bicycle and come out with me, man. I'll torch you into.
Yeah, if I had the time, I'm too
Yeah.
busy trying to fix fuel issues.
Yeah. You're spending a lot of time still working with that, huh?
Well, I mean, you always have to, right? You
Yeah.
gotta push the edge, but where's the edge? Like these guys, it's such a moving target with this fuel company. You don't know. Yeah, you don't know when they're blending it. We're like taking samples. We're measuring specific gravity. We're running the stuff on the dyno if we can before we leave, but the stuff shows up at the track, and you're just like, oh, this is a different batch. The batch number of the drum's different than what we ran on the dyno. I wonder what we have today.
No shit.
And so our option is to make the bike really slow. So that's all we have until we get a handle on what the heck these guys are doing with the fuel.
That sucks.
Yeah, so we're waiting on some lab stuff to come back, and then we'll try to figure it out from there. Came up with a different package. We were able to get the power back to really close to where we were last year with a different package. It's more, I guess you could call it softer with relation to the fuel. We're not pushing the fuel as hard.
Right.
So I know we have a lot more potential above and beyond that if we're allowed to use something different.
Yeah. Yeah, if the bikes are slower, man, that sucks. Especially when you race against the
At the end they
missiles.
weren't. At the end they weren't.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean Cameron Peterson, I think, are the highest trap speeds, but that's really in race two. But that's really indicative of how hard you're braking. Those new Brembo calipers we got, they're really good.
Yeah.
Jake was still working on his braking game a little bit. You know, he had a little bit of the Portimao syndrome. He was braking past the speed trap, so his speed trap was never quite as good as Cameron's. And
Okay.
it wasn't because his bike was slow; it was just because he was braking a little bit early.
Hmm. So he picks up brake pressure a little bit early.
Yeah, he grabs a little bit early. I think he's still trying to use those calipers. He's a bit of a creature of habit. So he got really comfortable with the calipers we had last year. So he's trying to figure out how much he can pull the lever immediately. And of course, you know, when you ride off of, if you're a second nature type rider, you know, if you change something a little bit, it throws your rhythm off. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things we got to keep working on with him.
So we have a lot more to talk about, but man, like I'm getting like rapid fire comments. So
Yeah,
let's blow through some of these comments. Yeah.
sure.
All right. So yeah, like I'm being told to ask about the BMW chassis. Yeah, dude, I'll get to it, Matthew.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's like on the list of shit we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
Um,
I know the rule book pretty well when it comes with regards to that because we're always building swing arms and linkages and things like that.
yeah,
But
and
I
then
can say one thing before we get deep into that is BMW had to put a lot of modification in their frame just to build the Yamaha frame.
okay,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like to be able to handle as good as our bike, they had to add a lot to that frame. So that just tells you, you know,
yeah,
you have a five-time champion riding it. So that
right.
combination is pretty lethal. But
Well, the other guy on the team that's riding the same bike basically
no,
was
he doesn't
like,
have the same bike.
oh, he doesn't. Well, oh,
No,
that's right. Yeah, that's right. PJ didn't get that frame, did he?
no, but maybe he'll get it next time. I don't know. But he
Hmm.
doesn't have the same bike.
Okay.
And that kind of puts the guy in a little bit of a mental struggle too, right? When you know you're not on the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And the other guy, dude, Corey Alexander was ripping this past
And he's
weekend.
got last year's bike. My buddy
Yeah,
Carl is working with him.
yeah,
Carl Steyer. He was our suspension guy back in 2001 and 2 and 3.
yeah,
And, you know, the Pridmore, Spies, Hayes era.
yeah,
And, yeah, he's working with him. They dusted his ass off and shook him down and brought him down from Canada. And he's doing a good job with him.
yeah,
And Corey's riding it good. And he needs a guy like Carl to help him along.
yeah. I mean, I was like, dude, whatever you had for breakfast every day this weekend, keep doing that, bro. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay, so there's some more. Alex, I don't even want to try to pronounce that dude's last name, but he says he wants to get straight to the nerd stuff. He's like,
Yeah.
how do you go about developing torque maps? Simply aim for 10% rear wheel slip, or fancy stuff like wheel torque transducer on the countershaft?
No, there's no wheel torque transducer on the counter shaft. I don't even know if that's even allowed in our. I guess that could be one of our optional sensors if we want to spend the money. But we basically know what the torque of the engine is from dynoing the engine, so you know exactly where the torque is. So you have torque maps that are built into the ECU from all the dynoing.
Okay.
So you know exactly what the friction map of the engine is like, and you know how much torque it produces. So depending on the throttle RPM, you know pretty much what it does. If you want to get real tricky, MotoGP tricky, then the torque transducer can get you some more information, a little closer, more accurate information based on the conditions, like the temperature of the day and the temperature of the fuel, and
Right.
you know all that kind of stuff. You know, so you may be not exactly what you have in the back of the torque map, but that's why you have a guy like Marshall going to adjust the torque based on what he sees.
Yeah. Or like, or the rider can say with the track map, hey, I need a little bit more wheelie control there. I need a little bit more power there, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can pretty much tell the rider, hey man, you're kind of wheeling a little bit much right there. Do you feel that? Oh no, it's fine. Okay. Or you know, so it might be because the thing will project out how much wheelie it's making. Like it looks at the IMU and the suspension position, and it could say, oh, you're getting a 50 millimeter wheelie, you're getting a 20 millimeter wheelie, you're getting a 100 millimeter wheelie.
Right.
So you can pretty much see it. You can see the front wheel slowing down. So it does a bunch of math based on all those different parameters that are on the bike, and it can estimate pretty good. So some of those closed loop transducers you can do through math, you know, because you have enough inputs already.
Right. Right. And then let's see, Bearded Jixer says he's basically asking how Cam P's doing, like where is he at mentally?
I mean, he was pretty bummed out after the weekend. He expected to do better, obviously.
Yeah. I mean,
A crash and
he
a
said it
crash in sixth, huh?
he said it on the grid before the start of race 2 that he just needs to start having fun riding his motorcycle again. Like,
Yeah,
I
so that's the
mean,
mentality right there.
yeah. Like, so he's like a little, I don't know, maybe crashing 2 times in that weekend kind of fucks with your skull a little bit.
I think it did.
Yeah.
He really loves Laguna, so we'll see how his mentality is Laguna.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Matt says, why are other teams/brands not having an issue with the fuel, or are they?
Ducati had issues last year,
Yeah.
and I think we've just been unlucky when it comes to grabbing that one drum that just does you in.
Yeah.
It's always like within a lap or two. And then you change the fuel and you go back and you run the whole race.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you set it aside. And I think, I don't know this for a fact, but I was told by another fuel blender that VP blends their fuel on multiple sites around the country. It's not at one location.
Okay.
So based on what type of quality control they have, then the blending process may vary from place to place. So you might, like, we've never had a problem with the fuel we're getting in California. Never. And like for instance, when Coda last year, when we had a problem, we took fuel from Coda and we ran the whole first day. Everything was cool. Then as soon as we popped in the fuel that we got at Coda out of their truck, boom, no good.
Yeah.
And then it was the same kind of thing at this last race. As soon as we used a brand new can with a different batch, then we had a problem at Road America. Then we went to the fuel we got at Road America because that fuel was from Barber. So the fuel we got at Road America was a 2022 blend, and the Barber stuff was 2023 blend. It has a batch code right on the
Right.
drum. It's got X22 or
Is
X23.
it almost to the point where you're just gonna have to start buying fuel? You're like, okay, that batch works. Can you like order that batch and just keep it in the truck?
That's a good question. I mean, we do have a barrel of fuel here, 54 gallon, just saving it for Coda
Yeah.
because we got it from the same batch we tested with all winter.
Okay.
So we just set it aside and go, we're going to keep that for Coda. We'll see how it goes.
There you go.
They do have a new fuel coming out called MGPR, which doesn't have ethanol in it. And I think it's got MTBE in it. And apparently it does pretty decent on the dyno on a test engine. We haven't, and that's the other thing too, is like we go, well, who's testing the fuel? And who's actually running it? Because there's nobody in World Superbike running this fuel. And there's nobody else in the world that I know of running this fuel in a series. So
Right.
basically we're getting these blended fuels that are done by a chemist doing math. Yeah, if I add this, the octane goes down to this. I add this, the octane goes down to this. And so are they sending each batch off to Switzerland to have it certified? No, they get one certification and then they just keep blending the fuel after the certification passes. So if they want to save a little bit of dough and they use a slightly different chemical, trying to think they're going to come up with the same octane number or the same anti-detonation character, then they may miss.
Yeah.
So back to that question, are we prone to it? Well, we push hard. So if you push to the edge of what the fuel can do and the fuel's not there, then guess what? You're going to have failure.
Okay. So then another thing is about the tires. We're going to talk about the tires some more, but Matty Test, he says he thinks that Heron got pole on a race tire, not a Q tire. And
I don't doubt it.
Did you guys?
Q tire, go ahead.
Did the Attack boys go any better on the Q tire, or did you guys qualify on the race tire?
Race tire.
Yeah.
He went better on the race tire.
Yeah.
I think Cameron went a bit better on the Q tire, but that's only because he had more laps, because he had fallen down in the race before.
Right.
Fallen down in the Q before and didn't get a bunch of laps. And then he was sick the first day, so he wasn't doing consistent fast laps. So he was going to improve every session, but Jake went slower on the Q tire.
Okay.
I even asked Hunter, the Dunlop guy, I said, dude, why don't you either bring out real Qs, like we used to have back then, where we could smash the track record, full throttle stuff for one lap,
Yeah.
And then you see some real track records fall down. Unfortunately, it would probably benefit the guys with the higher horsepower because you can really apply it, don't get much spin.
Right.
They used to do that back in the day, one lap flyers, real Qs. Nobody really in the world does it anymore. Even MotoGP, they don't have those one lap Qs anymore. So I think it'd be better just go back to just qualifying on your softest race tire.
Yeah.
because then at least the guy gets more than a lap or
Yeah.
two. You know, that zero doesn't seem to really, depending on the temperature too. This year's tires seem to be very temperamental with track temperature.
Really?
Yeah. So for instance, if it's not over 40 something C's, what we found at Barber, at Atlanta, and now at Ridge, if we're not up over 40 C, the tire falls apart. Like the tread falls right off it.
Really?
Meaning that it gets grainy like a cold tear.
Oh shit.
Like in the morning we put a brand new tire on morning warm up. The thing was done in 5 laps. Both sides looked like a Q tire. The 1 lap Q tire. Like we got like maybe 8 laps, 12 ladder, but the last 3 were pretty crappy.
Wow.
So something happened in the way they did the carcass because they swear up and down the compound's the same, the layering's the same, like everything's the same except the shape of the tire. But for some reason, that tire either runs colder or it puts pressure on the different parts of the tire where it just shreds. And then if you get the temperature way up there on the tire, then it seems to live.
Yeah.
You know, so or the track temp up. So that's been our experience with the tire. I think the tires are about the same as last year as far as their performance, and maybe a tick worse in some with some regards. They seem to steer a little better on the front because the shape's a little different. That's probably the only benefit. Other than that, man, I don't know. We can't seem to really get the performance out of the tires like we thought we were gonna get.
I mean, I was gonna say, talking to Bobby Fong yesterday, he was saying that he didn't have any grip on the tires. That's what he said. He doesn't ride Superbike often, so hopefully he'll get some more time on that bike and get going.
Yeah.
But he said a lot of riders are saying that. And if I look at the race distance time from last year versus this year's race distance was like over 40 seconds slower than last year.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think that had a lot to do with the tires.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that what we tested, and new swing arm, new linkage, new suspension stuff for the whole back of the bike, change the length of the bike. We did all that stuff around the old tires because the new tires weren't available. And so then we got a set of new tires, like one test before we had to go racing in Atlanta, and it was a very short amount of time that we had good weather. And same thing, that there was no wow moments. There was a number of guys out there, the BMW guys, not Bobier's team, but not Tyler's guys, but another team, and the Westby guys were there, and there was the ADR guys were there, and all of them said, "Man, what happened to the rubber?" The one test, and we thought, well, maybe it's just the track. The track's been getting rained on. It's a little dirty. It's a little cold, so we didn't get a really good experience. And then we go to Atlanta, and we're struggling there too. And so we're slowly trying to figure out what this tire really requires.
Yeah.
And at the end, there's only so much you can do to a chassis to make the tire bite if it doesn't have any good mechanical grip to start with. So I think that we missed the boat a little bit on Sunday.
Okay.
Trying to find that grip, because it isn't the edge grip so much, it's just the drive grip, the thing driving off, and even later in the race, which our bikes were always really strong at the end of the race.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit concerning. But I have all the confidence that we'll find a solution for that drive grip that we always had. I think we just missed the boat a little bit, and that didn't give Jake a fighting chance. And then once Cameron got by, he said, you know what, I could try to chase him down and put some bold moves on there and possibly crash, or I could take the second and take the points, extend the points lead like we already did. After Ridge, we still extended the points lead. So
yeah,
it wasn't that horrible a weekend. We didn't win both of them. We won one, not the second one.
I mean, it looked like he was right there, and Cam Bobier would just kind of yard him on that first part of the first half of the track, and then the second half, Jake would catch back up, but he wasn't quite close enough to put a pass on him. And after a while, it looked like he just started mailing it in after that, dude.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. The first sector, Cameron had him by about 2/10, and then Jake had Cameron about maybe 2.5 tenths in the second sector.
Yeah.
And then they were about even, give or take, in the last sector. So it was a little bit of a seesaw effect. And as long as Jake was ahead, Cameron could catch up to him, and then Jake could extend it a little bit in the middle sector.
Yeah.
And then Cam had a hard time passing him. But then once Cameron got by, Jake couldn't catch up to him close enough in the first sector to do anything in the second or third sector. You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the car's kind of flipped, and he said, well, you know what, I'm just not going to take that big a chance. We'll take the points lead and go on the next one.
Sounds like shit champions do.
Well, you got to be smart. You can put the thing on the ground and lose every point you made.
Right.
So we're like, what, 23 up?
Right.
So we went into race 2, 28 up, and lost 5 in race 2. So he could have thrown it down the road and still only been a couple back, but it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Rather the points lead going to Laguna, because Cameron's going to be really fast. Cameron Bobier, that is, really fast at Laguna. I mean, he went really good on our bike there.
Yeah.
I don't imagine he's going to be a slouch there at all. So we have to be really, really smart.
Are you concerned with the pavement there, like not having any time on the new pavement?
I think everyone's concerned. All the Superbike guys are asking for a couple extra tires so they can be able to try some stuff in the first session. But it's a triple header too, so you can imagine if we don't get it right, you're going to suck for 3 races.
Oh shit! Yeah. I didn't even realize it was a triple header. There's weird shit at Laguna, right? So it's like triple header for you guys, and then the extended race for Supersport, right?
Yeah, they're going to fit that all in the schedule, so you know how that's going to go. No practice.
Good times.
Yeah.
And all your data is shit now, right? Because new pavement.
Yeah, the new pavement had a strange effect at Road America because it was so smooth, and apparently the paving company that did Road America is doing this one, I heard.
Yeah,
so I don't know if they'll use the same asphalt, but I bet they will.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so we know where our weak spot was. It was corner entry at Road America. We didn't have that whole first day, so we're playing catch up.
Right.
So at Laguna Seca, hopefully we have a good first day, and I hate saying hopefully in racing because it never works out, but we will have a very good first day and then head off into hopefully with a bigger points lead. I said hopefully again.
Yeah, if everything works out like they're supposed to.
Yeah, we'll have a bigger points lead leaving Laguna Seca, and if not, then we'll fight at Brainerd.
Okay.
In Pittsburgh.
I mean, Brainerd's a good track for you guys too.
Yeah, but I mean, Cam Bobby he's the man.
Yeah,
the guy rides really good. I was watching him ride, and watching him use that Moto 2 style on that BMW, and I said, man, he's improved his riding since he rode our bike.
Yeah.
So I think a couple of years of Moto 2 made him a better rider.
Well, there was that slow-mo video that was going around where he was running and having that chatter on the front. It looked like he fully tucked the front, and in slow motion, you watch his head go like this, and the front end came back. I was like, what? Like, how does that even happen? Like,
well, that's probably him going, what the heck do I do now?
Yeah. But it came back, and he just kept
going. It came back, like, whoa, it came back. Well, I mean, it did that same thing. That's why he crashed in, if you look at the slow-mo of him crashing
in race one. Yeah.
And bringing out the red flag, which a lot of people don't understand the rules either, and it's still confusing.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the rules and why?
Yeah, let's talk about the rules. I mean, it just seems like every race, even since Daytona, there's always been some rule thing, and the fans get all confused, and the know-it-all, the couch potato crew chiefs are freaking out.
Couch potato fans are freaking out.
Yep.
The bench racers are freaking out.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, in club racing, it's a lot of club racers too. They're like, once you're down, that's a DNF, And
yeah. So they have a actively participating rule.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you fall down, if you don't run to your bike, pick it up, and try to go again, you're basically not racing anymore.
Right.
But and they also don't have a rider causes a red flag rule.
Right.
The rider falls down, takes out a hay bale. The hay bale in the middle of the track causes a red flag. If the guy's bike spins around and ends up in the middle of the track, the bike causes a red flag. You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like the obstruction cause. It's not that the rider crashes, because everyone's trying to race, right? And crashing happens.
Right.
And so the rider doesn't necessarily cause a red flag. The red flag happens because there's some situation which is unacceptable, and they have to stop the race. So he crashed going into the chicane. He lost the front.
Yep.
Chatter, crash, turn the bars, fall down. Right. Go out, hit the hay bales. They're there, and pushed the hay bale. I think somewhere this way, that way. But then he jumped up and went to pick up his bike and got it going.
Yeah.
So so the stewards get involved, the FIM North America stewards get involved. They look at the video and they go, okay, if we go back a lap, you know, he gets second place because he was in second place a lap back.
Right.
But he did fall down in the race, and he did lose X amount of time trying to recover his bike.
Yes.
So they gave him a 20-second penalty for or time reduction.
Okay.
So that's how they came up with 20 seconds. It took him about 20 seconds to pick up the bike and get going again because he didn't know there was a red flag. So he picked up the bike and started riding, right?
Yeah.
And then they threw the red. So once he got the next corner station, he realized it was a red. So they look at the video and they go, okay, yep, that's 20 seconds. Or, I mean, it is definitive. Like there's no arguing that point. Once the stewards say that's what it is, it's what it is.
Right on.
So is it fair? I don't know.
It's the rules,
Probably.
you know. I mean, there was a lot of weird shit. I mean, there in other classes. I mean, Rocco got penalized a couple of positions for passing on a waving yellow on the, like at the end of the race. Like the dude was, he was like a country mile ahead of everybody, and he passed a dude going into the chicane who probably got the blue flag prior, and looked like he slowed down and moved over, and Rocco was way out front, and he got penalized a couple of spots and ended up P3 in the official results.
Well, yeah.
It's like, how that doesn't, it looked like bullshit to me, but.
If it was a waving yellow, it's a waving yellow.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, it's like the guy slowed down and moved over. Like, is Rocco supposed to slow down and let the guys behind him catch up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a waving yellow.
Yeah, and then the other one.
That's the rule.
Yeah, the other one that was weird was obviously I think some of the best racing of the weekend was in that hooligans class with Tyler O'Hara and Jeremy McWilliams. Jeremy McWilliams is old as shit, right? Like, how old is that dude? But
he was backing in Grand Prix bikes way back in the day.
Right, two-stroke ones, right?
Two-stroke 500s.
Yes.
He would always use the softest tire there ever was, and he would back that thing in.
Yes. So I guess both of those guys got DQ'd in race 2 for like something with their handlebars. I don't know if
they
were too high or they were
too low,
or they had flipped them upside down.
Yeah, they have. I mean, with that class, they're all about making the things a bagger, a hooligan, or whatever the heck. It's got to look like a certain part. They don't want to look like a sport bike. So that's what I think is the deal with the rules. Not that I really care.
Right.
But, so their bars are a little lower, so they gain some advantage.
Yeah.
It's all about performance advantage. You're sitting there with no fairing, right?
Yep.
The lower you can make the bars, the more you can get your head down, the more aero you're going to be. So that's a performance advantage. And just like anything else, put a big bore piston in there, you're going to get disqualified.
Well, I mean, they ran the same bikes the day before, so I guess they were just lucky that Tech didn't catch it the day before in Parc Fermé, right?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, the way the Tech works is once it comes out of their possession, they can't prove it was that way during the race. If they come to your pit and you go, why are your bars low? I don't know, it's just adjusting them, go away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they have to get you right there on the spot. As soon as you roll out of there and you say, oh, you got this illegal part, as soon as you roll out of there, you switch it real quick. They can't say, oh, come back here, you got this illegal part. We saw, as long as if they didn't see it, they can't prove you did it. So that's probably the reason why they didn't do anything the previous. And a lot of times it's other riders pointing at it. Hey, look, his bars are lower.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, from what I understand, the protest was filed by another team. Andy DeBrino basically made it clear that it wasn't him.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's what that's what happens. That's the way a lot of these rule things actually get prosecuted, because somebody says, hey, just like you get robbed, you're going to call the police and say, hey, this dude robbed me, or this woman robbed me, and then they go, okay, what does he look like? Is that person there? Okay, and they go get him.
Right.
If they don't complain, the police never come do anything.
Right.
So that's the way the rules generally work. You go, man, that guy's been running this illegal blah 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 for the last 3 races, and I've had enough of that. So I'm going to tell T.
Apparently, they've run every round with those bars. Apparently, that's what the comments are saying.
Okay, well, now they can't.
Yeah, busted.
Yeah, now they can run a different deal. I mean, the rules thing's gone that way for a long time. Unless somebody says something,
Yeah.
You know, the people in tech, there's a handful of them, and they have so many classes they're looking at: super sport, hooligans, baggers, superbike, super stock. You know, so they have so many different bikes they're looking at, and they got to sit there and look. And so it's the obvious stuff they catch, unless they're doing a pre-planned inspection, like one of our engines got sealed, and it's going to be inspected after Pittsburgh or near Pittsburgh times, round 6. You know, they let us run it all the way out till it's used, because they don't do on the spot. Hey, take your engine apart. They'll seal it up, put seals on it, and then they'll go and they'll watch us take it apart. They'll crack the seals and they'll take it apart until we get a chance to use the engine the rest of the way. And then they'll you know, they're going to do is you ask, what do you want to see? They said everything.
Okay.
So it's a complete dismantlement. It's not like just count gears or whatever. They want to see the whole thing. And so retroactively, if your stuff's illegal, you could lose that race where that engine was in last time. And it could be 6 races down the road. So that's one way that tech can get you, and the other way is people just point at it.
Yeah.
You know, they go, oh, that guy's been running that illegal sensor the whole time. We have a big sensor list in Superbike. We can use all these particular sensors, or they see it, and we can also declare 2 additional sensors. So you send them an email that says we're declaring these sensors, and they go look, and they go up, there they are.
Right.
You know, but you could do whatever you want, just like this world. You can do whatever you want until you get caught.
Right on. Right on.
Then you get punished.
So there's like a bunch more comments coming in.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of get to that. Let's see here. Let's see. Irate Barry says something about the tire pressures and how, like, supposedly the new Dunlops like higher tire pressure than the old ones. Is that true?
Yeah, it's possible. You know, I think we're probably a little on the low side for race 2, and so I think that's what hurt us on the drive grip. So we're going to be fooling around with that a little bit more. Try to open up our window just a little bit and to see if we can get a little bit of performance out of the tire. For sure, you have to be conscious of what's going on with these tires to get the performance out of them. Temperatures, pressures, the whole deal.
And then Bob Adams says, he asks if you were expecting the BMW and the Ducati to be as competitive at the Ridge as they were. It's a little concerning that those bikes are fast on tighter tracks as well.
Yes. I mean, I expected. I mean, Heron finished second on our bike. It was his best result on our motorcycle. Like, we finished 1-2 both races there pretty easily, and he went around all those guys, even though he wasn't the A rider. You know, he wasn't the guy winning everything. I think he did really good there, so I thought for sure he was going to do well. And the Ducati's a good motorcycle. I mean, you know, it's got a lot of power, it's got a lot of grip, it's got good electronics. And so I didn't think that was going to be a big issue. And Heron knows how to mix it up with a group. You know, elbows out, all that stuff. And he tried. You know, he rides like a bonehead sometimes. You know, like he even admitted. Like, race one
was like race 1. He kind of did what Campy did last year in turn.
Well, I mean, he screwed himself up, and then he did something with the shifter, and then he looked down at the shifter, and then he went backwards. And if it wasn't for 2 guys crashing, he wouldn't have got on the podium.
Right.
In race 1, right? Cam P crashed.
Right.
So if it wasn't for those 2 crashes, he wouldn't have been anywhere in sight in race 1. So, but race 2, he did a good job. They got going a little bit better, even though he had that gigantic crash and still got pole. You know, and so I don't expect those guys just to go, oh, we suck and we're not going to try hard.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, BMW whipped out a whole new chassis just to get that bike to go around corners.
Yeah. You know what? Before we talk about the big chassis thing, like, talk about that fast corner. You know, Heron in qualifying, like right after setting that ridiculous flyer that he did to set pole.
Yeah.
Right after that, he stacked really big. Stefano Mesa stacked in the same spot in Supersport race.
Turn 8, you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And then I think even Brendan Kettleson wadded a R7 in that corner in similar fashion. So is there, like, what's the deal with that corner, man? Like, why
there's a big G out going in there.
Yeah.
There's a big G out where it bottoms the forks. So if you make the bike work really well in other parts of the track, you could risk bottoming the forks a bit too much and squishing the tire in that part of the track.
Yeah.
So you have to be conscious of that big bump, you know, both of our guys, not Jake as much, but Cameron for sure was bottoming the forks there. A big solid hit, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, it just no matter what springs you put in there, if you ride it hard, it's gonna go straight to the bottom in that one G out section, and then you have a big run out of there. So everyone's trying to get in there pretty good and square that thing off so you get a nice run up that hill into that tight left. You know, it's a big long sweeping right hander, and so yeah, it's really easy to crash there if you get it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's like downhill, a lot of roll speed going in, brake pressure, lean angle, right? That's what it looked like to me. I just, you know,
it's like a mini version.
The genius has spoken.
Yeah, it's a mini version of Portimao turn one, you know, where you go in there and then also coming down the hill. I mean, mini version.
Yeah.
You know, you come down, all of a sudden thing bottoms out. You got to release a little bit of brake pressure there. If you're still trying to break across that big G out spot, bad things are going to happen.
There's another comment. I got to look for it, but basically, the guy is talking about Bobby Fonk's comment last night about how many times he used first. Yeah. Brian Green asked this question. He said last night Bobby said he used first gear like 6 times a lap on Aussie Dave's bike. And he was like, man, I've used first gear more than I ever have on any bike ever at the Ridge on the R1. Is it like, are you guys using first gear like 6 times a lap on your bikes?
Let me think. 1, 2.
I was thinking 3.
3. I think it's 4 times.
4 times?
Yeah, I think it's 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah. It is a first gear track.
Yeah.
I mean, first through fifth.
First through fifth.
Yeah.
So you're catching fifth on the straight, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Are you guys up the hill there? Are you guys rev limmering on fourth? Or are you catching fifth up the hill there?
I think it's fourth.
You're catching fourth, yeah.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, we were on the rev limiter in fourth right before you shut off and back to first, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And like the first is just kind of help slow the thing down, right? I mean. Or is it to get the jump off the corner, or is it because sometimes you guys go down to first to get the jump off the corner, but at that track, it seems like you guys are going down to first to help the thing slow down.
Well, if you use first, you're going to get more resolution with your throttle for the engine braking. So you can control the engine braking a little bit better. And of course, you have to dumb it down on the exit. So you can use second in a number of spots, but things are going to be so low RPM, the engine's not going to slow you down.
Yeah.
So you won't get that engine braking you're looking for. So you have to use a lot of rear brake. You're going to be inconsistent, you know, and then you're lugging off of there. And then if your engine isn't a flat torque type engine, you're going to hit that peak torque pretty quick, and you're going to wheelie a lot.
Yeah.
So it's always better to use first when you can, just for the to make the EB more effective, the engine braking, and then B, you can reduce torque and come off of there pretty flat torque and not wheelie as bad. We will think, oh, I use first, it's going to be an animal to ride. And not if you use the torque control, you know, all the stuff that modern sport bikes have by, you know, playing around with the torque maps.
Yeah. And then this is an interesting comment. Mike C, referring to the Rocco penalty thing, he says the rider that Rocco passed was actually having a mechanical, and he was stuck in a false neutral, and he was putt-putting. So, like, that dude was kind of, even though he was on the track, he arguably wasn't actively racing. So that's where the line.
Well, he's riding his motorcycle. He's on the track. The guy should have pulled off the racetrack. He's having a problem.
There you go. Somebody should retake new racer school. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So we use first. I just look at the gear map here. 1, 2, 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the chicane at the top of the hill, and then entering Lombard Street, right?
Yeah, Lombard Street, all the way through there, all the way till you exit.
They keep calling it, the announcers keep calling it the corkscrew, and I'm like, dude, that's Lombard Street.
Yeah, it's
all it needs is some houses and planter boxes, and it's Lombard Street.
Yes, exactly.
So it will always be Lombard Street. Let's see what else. Let's see, yeah. 3. Okay, so for the triple header coming up from Laguna, this is from Vince Urea. with the 3 races, is that 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday, or vice versa? Or are they going to do 1 on Friday? Like, how is that schedule going to work?
It's kind of like World Superbike, where you have anybody wants to see the schedule, they can go to motoamericaregistration.com, and there's a schedule there, like there's all the different days.
Yeah.
And all the different track events, and then if you click on that, there's a schedule there on the bottom, and it'll tell you exactly how the whole weekend's going to go. But it's going to be like World Superbike, where you have a Super Bowl race. You have a Super Bowl race, go a full length race. It's on Sunday.
Okay.
Before lunch.
Cool. So you got a full race before lunch, and then another full race after lunch.
Yeah, if you remember, in 2020 was the first time we did that at Laguna with Acropovic. He won all 3 of them.
Yeah, you guys did it at Jersey, I think, too, that year, right?
To think.
I think
maybe.
So, yeah.
I know we lost 1 round, and then we ended up throwing it into 2 others. I think something like that. In 20. We did Road America twice. That was COVID time, and everything's weird.
Yes.
Box lunches.
Right.
Eating outside.
Okay. So Matthew McComber says, is the R1 getting old? Like, is Yamaha developing a new gen? And would Richard consider moving to another manufacturer? By the way, I ask every question, so...
Yeah, I got you. I think I'm getting old. The bike's a lot younger than I am.
Wow.
I mean, there's always benefits and drawbacks to having a bike that's been around a long time, the development. One is you get to know that motorcycle really, really well, and you can get every last little bit of power out of it, and the handling and all that. You end up doing things over the years that, like swing arm evolution, frame evolution. Like, let's say our frames are completely OEM, with the exception of the adjustable swing arm pivot. And so we may look at, as the tires develop, maybe we can look at bracing the frame like the BMW boys did, and how that benefits us. So if you get a new model every single year, you're always playing catch up on the development. You're always like, oh, I got a brand new bike, I got to build a new swing arm for it, I got to do this, I got to do that. The benefit is you know the bike really, really well. And so what's the drawback? I don't know. Our bike can still win races. The fuel thing has kind of put a bit of an anchor on the amount of horsepower we can make. But once we get that resolved, that MGP-R is supposed to be pretty decent. If we can get onto that next year, then we can probably pull some of our power back, and we'll be back to golden. So in World Superbike, the Yamaha is basically the top 3 bike, and the fact that you got Batista, who's just on another level. That right now is a small guy that knows how to ride a fast, big motorcycle like a big guy. He hangs off, it spins, he does all that stuff. He doesn't ride the bike like a small guy. He rides the bike like a MotoGP guy.
Yeah.
So you can't punish the rest of the Ducati guys because the other guys aren't winning. Just Batista's killing everyone, and it's because he's riding the bike well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean Top Rack and Locatelli aren't riding the bike well, and it seems like the Yamaha guys are up there quite a bit.
Yeah.
You see the Cowi's not doing anything.
No.
The Honda's not doing anything. So what are your choices right now in World Superbike? And the BMW's not doing anything. And
have you heard who's gonna take the seat left by Top Rack?
No, I could ask. I'll probably get an answer, but I'm too busy doing my thing over here.
Yeah, I hear that.
To worry about the politicking over there.
Right.
So I could find out for sure. I probably couldn't say anything. So what difference does it make?
Right. Somebody's gonna get that ride.
Yes, a person will get that ride.
That's right.
It won't be you.
Like I have a couple more comments, but we'll get to those in a minute. But let's go back to the rules thing and talk about that frame situation. Let's talk about that. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw some pictures of it.
Okay.
Looks like they added a lot of aluminum to it. I mean, at the end of the day, like I joke, but it sure looks a lot like our frame when it's all said and done, with just a lot more welds on it.
Yeah.
If you take a side profile of ours and theirs, it looks pretty freaking similar as far as the shape. Because the BMW has this really spindly frame stock, really spindly. So I guess they're trying to get feel out of the thing. I mean, they've always struggled with that bike with feel.
Yeah.
And back in the day, they had a pretty rigid frame. They had rigid clamps and rigid forks. The forks were gigantic. When they first came out with that bike, it seemed like there was a lot of Suzuki stuff on that bike. It was really weird,
Hmm.
And so as far as the stem dimensions and the stem nuts and all that stuff, 'cause we built clamps, right? So we get a chance to look at these bikes a lot. And then they started going the other direction with these really small frames. And so it looks like what they've done is they've not only reinforced the whole frame across from the middle section all the way to the steering head by adding aluminum to the top, getting rid of that little dip in the middle, sort of straight lining the thing, giving it a little more rigidity. But they've also made the spars that go down reinforced, and they've moved the engine mounting on the spar to a different location. So if you read the rule book, bracing is legal. You can brace as much as you want. You can put 3 inches of aluminum or steel on the frame. Well, it doesn't. It's legal. It
Okay.
doesn't matter. So that's where I go with the testing. If you had a bike for a while, you could try different things, but obviously they're connected to the World Superbike guys, and so or they're connected to Alpha or whoever, and they're getting that frame. I think that frame was the same frame they had as a Super Concession last year,
Okay.
but I think they're calling it a normal frame now. I don't know how that works, so there's a little bit of research to do on that. A normal modified M frame.
Okay. So,
So that part. I think all the welding is legal.
yeah.
The only thing that would be illegal on that type of thing is if they move the swing arm pivot out of a certain range. I think it's plus or minus 5 millimeters from stock in all different directions. And if they move the steering head out of range, plus or minus, I think 6 millimeters front to back, and the angle is open, amount of space. I think that's legal, and the engine has to stay in the same location. I think that means it's legal.
I mean, does that make you? Does it make you want to call Paul Denning and be like, "Hey, dude, send me one of top racks for like"?
Well, I know the settings are running on that bike, and I know why they did what they did. I don't know if our Dunlop tires can handle what you know that frame.
Okay.
So we haven't had much issue with what we have, but we might look into it. I mean, they do some reinforcement on the longitudinal area, and they still try to give it feel. We don't have a problem with that area right now, but maybe if Jake or Cameron pushed a little bit harder, I think Cameron's putting some pretty good amount of braking force on the bike and it's not having any issues.
Right.
So, but it might be something we look at. I mean, our track's a little bumpier than theirs.
Right.
So if you go crazy rigid and you reinforce the crap out of everything, you might be crashing on the front more. So you have to be very about doing all the frame stuff. And it takes a little bit of testing, it takes a little bit of thinking. And then you have to have a problem to be able to say, how do I fix this problem? I hear that the BMW's problem was that the frame didn't flex symmetrically the way the engine was mounted. So they dropped the spar down and the mount of the cylinder, and that made the frame more symmetrical, so the front would flex, or when they were on the brakes, it wouldn't move to one side,
Hmm.
And we're not talking about a lot, but we're talking about even if it's a millimeter or two, that
Man,
upsets the rider.
that's interesting, man. Like that's.
I mean, it's all about some type of dynamic thing going on. It isn't just like, oh, look at this frame. It's solid. It doesn't mean you just start welding crap to everybody's frame, and you have to have a problem, and you have to analyze the problem, and then you have to fix the problem. If you
Right.
don't have a problem, what are you going to do with a frame?
Well, I mean, I remember the
Create a problem?
Yamaha, the 2009 era. The original cross plane
Yeah,
automatic.
yeah, they
You
embrace the
know,
crap out of it.
yeah, they braced the shit out of that thing, right? So, you know.
Yeah, but back then our tires were a little different too. Like I think that was 2009. Was that DMG days? I think it was.
Yeah.
But before DMG days, we had the UK Dunlops, right?
Right.
And they were quite a bit better than what happened with after DMG days. They went to Buffalo, and it took Buffalo a long time to figure out the tires. But now we're on rubber. At least last year we were on rubber, where we can break all kinds of track records. So from I think 18 until 22, the tires didn't change at all. It was the same rubber. They
Wow.
introduced that tire in 18, mid-season I think it was. They came
Yeah.
out with a new size, and we've used that tire up until 22. And every year we go faster, 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 faster. So it means the bike's getting better. We're getting a little more accustomed to what the tires are doing, And this year it seems to be a little bit of a not a moving target, but a little bit more of a mystery than we would like with these tires. They don't
I mean,
quite react.
is it like a chassis? Is it like a chassis setup thing to work with the tires? Because you guys didn't really get to test with them like you did previously, or
Yeah, I mean, we had 4 or 5 years worth of information on those other tires, right?
right?
So yes, I mean, we could figure out that, hey man, we're like, half a bar low on front and back, but we haven't we ran through all the pressures already, so we kind of have an idea of where the pressures need to be.
Okay.
And I think it's a matter of just getting the chassis to agree with the way the tire wants to drive off the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
you know what,
think, I
man?
think it's subtle stuff.
So I asked you yesterday, or actually a couple of days ago, like what's going on with, like what was Cam doing wrong in that corner that
Yeah.
that
So
was
I mean,
causing him
I
to
could
fall
show you on the
down?
line if you guys can see that. I could show you on the data.
Yeah.
And this was typical of what he was doing. This is race one,
Okay.
and he was in a good position in race one, and then he
Right.
just tipped over. So it was unfortunate, but I could show you that real quick. Let's
Okay.
see here. Share the screen. Let me zoom up on this.
I love it that Richard's like always willing to share data.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it all day long, but pictures are worth a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the announcer guys were talking about how Jake was doing something different in that area than just about
Yeah, I
anybody
can.
else too.
Well, see, that was the unfortunate part with Cam Bobier following him so much. I think he was I mean, he's a smart guy, so he's studying him a little bit and sizing him up,
Yeah.
and I think he started changing some of his approach. But anyway, so here's the track,
Yeah.
and red would be, let me have a look here. Red would be Peterson,
Okay.
and blue would be Gagne. So this isn't the track itself. This is
This is their line.
it's their lines.
Okay.
So you can see here, Jake was able to hug that quite a bit tighter.
Right.
So we can start here. This is where Jake was really fast from here to here. Jake was really fast in this sector. Cambodia fast all around this sector
Right.
and getting up this hill. So
Yeah.
we were giving up some drive grip in these areas, and then we're giving up a little bit on the braking in here. So that's why we had the little seesaw effect. But Jake was really fast getting through this G out, climbing
Right.
this hill, and then being able to turn here and still get a good run out of it. You can see how tight he can turn here and still hold the tight line coming out of this guy. And Jake was typically, I can't remember how many meters, but he made the track X amount of meters shorter than Cameron did.
Oh wow. Okay.
So he shortened the track up and still was able to hold the speed. So back to the crash thing. So we'll zoom up on that area where we're crashing.
Right.
And can you see us pretty good or no?
Yeah, I can see it pretty good, man.
Yeah. So Cameron's
The
red.
dark line is the
Jake.
dark. Yeah, it's Jake. Okay.
So
Oh,
Jake
man.
Jake
Yeah.
would have a later turn in. This is deceiving, and the gap wasn't like, this is maybe a few meters apart, right?
Right.
So Cameron is really strong on the brakes, and that's his MO, is get in the corner really strong, and Jake's MO is get in the corner a little bit slower but come off stronger. So Jake planned his trip down the hill by getting in a little later, jumping the curb here. There's a little curb there.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Inside curbing, he would jump that, and then he would do most of his turning and stay straight, coming down the hill. So he'd stay to the left, and then he would cross over where all the bumps were. All the bumps were in this area.
Yeah.
He would cross over and have a different vector going over the bumps compared to Cameron Peterson, that is, because Cameron was still trying to turn the bike over the bumps, and that's what kept catching him out. So if you zoom up on this area here,
Oh man.
right where Jake and Cameron would crisscross, see that?
Yeah. Yep.
Blue versus red right here.
Yeah.
I know you're colorblind, but try to pretend.
No, I could see two different lines there, bro.
Yeah. So the line so right where this crisscross is exactly where you would crash.
Okay.
So he'd come in and he'd be asking a lot of the front tire, trying to continue this turn where Jake has already done his turn back here. You can see it.
Yeah.
And straighten that thing out. So by the time race 2 got around, he was a little bit. He just wanted to finish.
Yeah.
So he was going through this section pretty slow, so he's giving up space. And then at the end of race 2, from the 2 crashes he had, his right elbow was pretty swollen, and he was using his left arm so much at the end of the race, his left arm went numb. So that's why he
Wow.
went from racing for third to sixth.
So when you had that talk with him, because he said something like, "What am I doing wrong?"
You
Like,
want to see this anymore, or are you done
yeah,
with
I
this?
think we're good with that. Like, how did he react to that? Like, obviously he's doing something wrong, but like, how did he react to seeing the difference in the data?
Well, it's a double-edged sword showing someone overlays to their teammate because
Right,
they're trying to win on their own, and then you're constantly telling them you got to ride like that guy. So it could be mentally a downer for someone to hear how they're doing something wrong all the time.
right,
So the way you approach it is you tell them what they're doing right, and you tell them what they're doing wrong. So you say you just need to keep doing what you're doing, but you need to do this in addition to that.
right. And like, as a
So
rider, you gotta like wrap your brain out of that while you've already just smashed two motorcycles.
yeah, there were pretty small crashes, but nonetheless, it takes the wind out of their sails when it happens.
Yeah,
Because now you're thinking, man, I just want to finish the race, and then he didn't end up finishing the first one. So then he's like, I really want to finish the race, and he had a bad result in the second one.
right.
Yeah, and be bruised up from the two crashes too.
Okay, so here's a couple of more comments that are coming in, but
Yep.
RIS says, or no, R1S says,
R1S.
he says, do you think that BMW's lack of success in World Superbike is related to the Pirellis? Because they seem to do better in other series.
The BMW,
Yeah,
what German series where there's nothing but BMWs.
there you
You
go.
know,
Right,
yeah. So they didn't do all that great in our series until Cambodia hopped on it.
right, right.
So I don't know if Cambodia wasn't riding the bike, how would they be doing?
And then
Nothing, nothing against PJ, but it'd be pretty inconsistent the way PJ was last year.
right.
They'd be a little bit struggling more. So I think they made a pretty deep investment in getting Cameron over here,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
and Cameron's really trying, and we still extended our championship lead after Ridge.
Yeah,
So it wasn't like we went away with oh boo hoo we lost
yeah,
the championship lead. No, we extended it.
yeah.
We just wish we'd have won both races, but
Right.
second
And
place isn't
you'd
bad.
rather have it extended more by like an
Yeah,
extra 5 points.
yeah. I mean, take five from him and give it to us, so we'd have that little bit bigger buffer, right?
Yeah, yeah. But you're going into Laguna with a points lead, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, yeah. But I think Bobier and that bike. I think I saw the way he was riding,
Yeah,
and he put a lot of that. Like I said, he put a lot of that Moto 2 style into the Superbike.
yeah,
And it was funny because kept telling him to ride that way when he was riding our bike in 20.
yeah.
It's like, hey man, you could do a little bit more of this and more of that. And then we're joking about it when he went to Moto 2. Hey, you got to start hanging off the motorcycle now, putting your elbow down. And they
Right.
started doing it over there, and now he's bringing it here.
Yeah,
So it's interesting the evolution, and he's the guy that has basically most of the whole package. He can charge the inside of a corner and drag the brake. And Carl, who's working with what's his name,
Corey Alexander.
Corey Alexander. Yeah, he said, man, I've seen that data, and the dude he's the real deal, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we used to talk about it in 20, right? We show
yeah,
some of his data where he has zero time between the closed throttle and like off the brake and on the gas. So he makes up little bits and pieces here and there, and he was riding it really, really good. And we tested at Ridge for a couple of days before we went and raced there with him. So he has time there. He knows that track, and he knows Laguna obviously really, really well.
right,
So it's going to be interesting to see how we pair up at Laguna, how that BMW does, because it didn't do all that well at Barber,
right.
for whatever reason. It didn't do very well at all at Barber, and they did good at Road America for obvious reasons. We screwed up the whole first day. We
Right.
didn't get a chance to ride, so we never really got our setup going. And they had a fast bike and had more time, and they actually tested there too. So they had a couple days of testing as well on the new surface that we didn't have. So it'll be interesting. And I think they tested at Brainerd as well already also. So it'll be interesting to see what he does at Laguna because he knows it a lot and what the pavement's like. And then Brainerd's another track where he knows PIRC. He's ridden there a bunch. So there's no weak tracks for Cameron Bobier going forward.
So
Nowhere.
So I have some comments from people coming in that were before the show started.
Yeah.
Pinky, the guy that comments all the time, he's
Um,
got a few questions, but we already answered most of them. But he asked, like, looking back at previous seasons from 2006, say 2006 to present, what year do you think this year reminds you of as far as competition goes?
hmm.
That's a good question.
No, I think probably when was Tony Elias really having a good race with
Yeah,
Cameron
I
Beaubier?
was thinking 17, yeah, or 18
Yeah,
even, right?
17, 18,
Yep,
19.
yep,
You know, when you had Gerloff coming up
yep.
and Cameron and Tony were having a good scrap,
And Heron throwing in
and
there, you know.
Aaron wasn't really in it when he was a Yosh. I mean,
Well,
he
in
won a
18,
couple,
in
I think.
18, he was on.
18,
Yeah,
18, we had some good racing with our bike, so 18 was decent.
right.
19 was good, 17 was good. I think all those. So
Yeah,
I think that 20, 21, 22 was pretty boring because we won everything pretty much, unless we had a bad day.
right, right.
So fortunately for the fans, the racing's getting better.
Oh,
Unfortunately for us, we got to work at it.
yeah. Well, I mean, like I was saying to you, you won three in a row, number one plates with two different riders, and like, how do you stay motivated? Well, now it's like got to be pretty easy to stay motivated when you got to chase and beat Cam Bobier, right?
I mean, he's a good rider, and so is Jake.
Yeah,
And Jake beat him in race one. Cam crashed trying to catch him. End of
right.
story, right there.
Yep.
It's just that Cam won the second one, and we lost by a couple seconds, and Jake decided to mail it in, as you say,
Yeah, mail it
bring
in.
it home, which is smart. Just get the points and go off. That's smart. Let's go to Laguna and let's rumble there. That's gonna be interesting there.
So here's another technical question from Bob Adams.
Yeah,
I don't know who Bob Adams is, but he's asking really nerdy stuff, and so it's like right up your
I
alley.
have some nerdy answers.
Yes, absolutely, we know. That's why you're a Superbike Genius. But he says with the current abilities with traction control, uh, do you take some of the drivability out of the engine for more peak power, and then let the TC handle the drivability?
Mm, the engines that make a really smooth curve,
Yeah,
like they're super linear. The torque's really flat, so you could. That's one way of doing it. You can torque. You can have yourself a pretty wild engine, but the problem is you'll end up with some tracks like Road America where you hardly use any strategies because the grip is so high.
really.
So if you
Okay.
have an engine like he's talking about, you're not going to be able to get around there very good.
So if the pavement is similar to what Road America was at Laguna, like, you know, you might have a similar situation where you don't need as many strategies, or because of the up and down nature of that place.
Yeah, no, the strategy is going to play it Laguna because
Okay.
you have a gearbox that's like first through sixth there, and you're going up to overturn. I mean, think about it. You go overturn turn one full boogie. You're
Yeah.
gonna have your wheelie control, and things will be spinning normally because it gets so light, sliding and
Yeah.
spinning over. They can get a lot of slip differential going over that thing. So you're gonna have some cut in sixth gear, and then you got to
Oh
get in
shit.
there. Your engine braking is really important going into two all the way back to second. Coming off of there, it's going to want to wheelie and spin. I don't care how much grip you have, it's going to want to wheelie coming off there. More grip you have, the more it's going to want to wheelie. So you need
Right.
wheelie control. You got to work on your torque. So you can either use wheelie control or torque mapping or a combination of both to do that. And then, I mean, you just work your way all around. Going down in the corkscrew, there's some strange stuff going on there. But yeah, for coming down the hill now, if you have a lot of grip, like through Rainy Corner, that turn nine, you could definitely get a good head of steam going into turn 10 and then back to 11 for all that wheelie control and traction control and all that stuff.
Right.
So I don't.
Wow.
I think it'll make it a little bit. It'll make it faster if the grip is like Road America, but if the tire wear is like it was with Road America, then it's going to be probably hard to get the corner entry the way you would like to get the lap time down.
Well, you were talking about the temperature being a deal, and like, you know how Laguna is, right? Like, you could have a nice hot warm day. It's July, right? But then
Yeah.
also You could have a shit weather day where it's, pea soup fog.
Yeah,
Making
I
it.
think it's going to be a challenge for the teams and the tires.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And whoever has a solution first is gonna be the victor.
So you're gonna crack the whip on Darren and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna get in there and get her
I
done."
don't need to, I don't need to crack the whip on those guys, man. They know what to
No,
do.
of course, of course.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
crack the whip on myself.
that too, man. That
Yeah.
too. Okay, so there's a couple more questions coming in before we wrap this thing, but this here we go. Badass 1G. His question is, why is there not a horsepower limit? The BMW and the Ducati must have 30 plus horsepower on the R1.
If you're talking about stock, it isn't that big for us. But yeah, I mean they had an advantage at Road America because we couldn't uncork our bikes, and then we've been pretty timid since then.
Yeah.
And so you remember at Road Atlanta we added a little bit of power for race 2, and it wasn't so bad.
Right.
He was right in the draft of those guys, and then once they made a little mistake, he was able to win, right?
Right.
So I think that was some really good racing, right? They were all nose to tail for the whole race.
There's a couple of back and forth with some
The
of the riders.
horsepower limits never work.
Yeah, Tim Powers. I think it's Tim Powers. He says it's superbike racing. It's badass. It's not spec class racing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with that guy.
Yeah. So there you go.
Plus, there's all kinds of ways to cheat on the horsepower thing, and it becomes a cheater game. Who's cheating the best? It just why make it to where everyone is motivated to cheat? Why don't you just leave it open and let people just be creative?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's always somebody that's going to cry about something, right?
Well, it's racing, man. Somebody loses.
Right.
Somebody wins.
Right.
No trophies for everyone.
Well, yeah, like this is the last sport that has that.
They're kind of making it that way with all these concession stuff, and like the Suzuki's got some special thing for their engine because they want them to get up there, which is, I don't know if it's going to make any difference. I mean, Escalante was riding really good. I mean, that track is not a horsepower track. And Escalante was riding really good. He was in the mix, right? So they're going the right direction with the chassis and electronics and all that.
Right.
But do they really need this little breather thing for their engine? I don't know. They start handing out little specialty deals. It kind of bums me out because it's like they're trying to equalize the field by just giving these little tiny things that are against the rules. Like it's been against the rules forever, but let me just go ahead and give it to that guy because I think it's going to help him get up front.
Wow, man.
There's no magic bullet to getting up front, just hard work.
And Bearded Jixer says, has there been any events going on at Laguna? And did they take the dip out at turn 6?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I don't think so, dude.
Maybe. I think there's going to be
a car thing, right?
Some kind of car race, like SCCA type thing.
Yeah.
Than before. So wherever you spin out and go in the dirt, that'll have lots of rubber on it.
Right.
Where a car would spin out and go in the dirt. So anything like going left when you're supposed to go right, there'll probably be a lot of rubber there.
Right. And then that badass 1G guy says, anyone else notice that the BMW and the Ducati front end seems more planted? He says he's guessing that it's the winglets holding it down better.
Yeah, our bike was wheeling a little excessively. I think coming up the hill, that was one of the things that we need to work on.
Yeah, Jake.
I don't think
was
it's
skipping
speed.
up the hill, kind of many
I
wheelies up the hill.
Yeah, I don't think it's the speed. I think it's other things. I don't think it's the winglets at that speed are doing what he thinks they're doing.
Right.
It might be a little bit of a help, but we're not going MotoGP speeds.
Right.
Especially not around that track.
Yeah.
First gear corners, I don't know.
A lot of first. You said 3 times a lap. That's.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of corners on that track either. So.
Yeah, I don't think the Aero is doing much of that.
Yeah.
That speed. Stick your hand out the window when you're going down the road.
Pinky says, should there be concessions to new teams?
More concessions?
To new teams.
New teams?
Yeah, should there be concessions to brand new teams?
I don't know. I mean, should you punish the teams that have been around devoting their money and time and effort into racing? You're going to punish them? concession is punishment for someone else, right?
Right.
In a different kind of way.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll give this guy a head start.
I know you saw that the series is asking for concessions for both Honda and Yamaha at MotoGP.
What is this, World Superbike?
MotoGP.
Oh, MotoGP?
Yeah.
Well, MotoGP used to do that. They used to have the teams that were not, they used to have extra engine development or extra engine packages. Like, they would open that stuff up. That was a few years ago.
Right.
And that was, Aprilia got that. I can't remember what they called that. They called it something. It was like a certain level. Like, you'd be on like level 2. I'm just giving it a number because that's what it was. So the level 2 teams would be able to use more engines through the season and push a little harder, blow their stuff up a little bit less because they can use more engines and stuff like that. So
right.
It helped them get even, but I think they got rid of all that because everybody had a competitive bike.
Right.
So do I believe that they should do that for Honda and Yamaha? No. I think they should go back and work hard.
Yeah, start doing the thing,
I mean, I hate to say that because I'm affiliated with Yamaha, but if they're not doing what the European bikes are doing, then they should go in and test more and develop and maybe get some of those Moto2 kids to ride your bike or whatever. Like, Yamaha doesn't have a satellite team, and I think that hurt them. They don't have a development team to put on that motorcycle.
Right.
They don't have anybody to move up through the ranks.
Like,
so where Ducati's got everyone. I mean, they got.
It's also kind of been said. I don't know how true this is, but it's been said that the Italian factories, the chain from rider to the engineer guys is pretty direct, and it's a very short turnaround time on changes requested, whereas kind of in the Japanese manufacturers, it kind of goes to committee, and then
I believe it.
And then it takes,
I believe it.
It could take 6 months to get the change that the Ducati or Aprilia guys can get from one round to the next.
Well, it was kind of like that way here with the Yamaha factory team, and it's why they didn't get a lot of changes through the years. And those guys will tell you too. Is here, when they contracted us, well, we want to make a new swing arm, so you buy the billets, you design the part, you stick it in the CNC machine, and then you weld it all up, and a few weeks down the road you're testing new swing arm. You're not sitting on your hands with a committee and designs and this and that. You go straight from, you take the ISO completely out of the whole process. You do the whole thing in house. You don't have to worry about all those steps it takes.
Yeah.
You could bypass a bunch of steps that way and have your development done. Hey, I want to make this part. Let's go try it. I want to lower the gas tank. Let's go try it next week.
Right.
Let's go ahead and take the saw, cut your gas tank up, weld some more stuff on it, put it together and go try it. So in that way, yeah, I think the Ducati team is probably more like that than they are the more rigid engineering way that maybe the Japanese. I don't know. I don't have that information, but it sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, there's more comments coming in. Well, guys, like this, we're gonna have to wrap this up because we're burning up all of Richard's time. But I'll ask the last couple of questions.
I kind of devoted the evening because I'm out of here after this. So
okay.
Yeah, then after this, we're pretty hardcore getting ready for Laguna. But
all right, so sure.
I don't mind answering questions. I like answering questions.
Oh, okay, so I'll go to Pinky then. Richard, since your team has been the best on the grids for some time now, what's wrong with some others getting a little help?
Can you be specific about who the others are and what help they're talking about? Oh, he's talking about the new teams getting concessions?
Right.
I probably wouldn't help them anyway. I mean, what's wrong with the rules we have?
Right.
What is the concession? Does like, and somebody shows up with a Suzuki, gets a big bore kit, or he gets more tires, or he gets special tires? I mean, I think the only thing that could probably make a difference is if you got special tires.
Okay.
I mean, I think everything else is going to require.
Okay, new team gets to run Pirellis, everyone else has to run Dunlops.
Yeah, something like that.
That'd be a concession.
Yeah, I think
super concession.
What makes the biggest difference on the track? I mean, the rubber makes a huge difference, and knowledge of the rider's knowledge and how he approaches it. I mean, I don't know if you can make a concession if a rider's new and he's still trying to figure the track. I don't know if you give him anything. you give him our bike and he's still going to be out there trying to figure it out. Like Bobby, he's basically was riding. I mean, ADR kind of rebuilt it, but that bike is what Jake won the championship with last year. So it takes time to learn all this stuff. So I think the only thing the new team's going to have to do is devote time and testing.
Yeah.
So concession could be test time. If you ban testing altogether, like World Superbike does, you only have a couple official tests. But if you're new, you can go out. They allow you to go test some more. That'll get you up to speed on the tracks you're going to ride on.
Right.
Maybe concession would be let those guys ride on Thursday, like Motor America. I mean, like AMA used to. They used to have privateers could ride on Thursday, and that was trying to help them get up to speed. And the factory guys didn't ride on Thursday.
Yeah, the Thursday promoter practice, right?
Promoter practice. You get to sign up and ride on track. That could be a concession. I don't know if horsepower or all this other stuff is going to make any difference.
Yeah. So you mentioned Fonger on last year's bike. Let's talk about because you kind of support that team too, right? A little bit.
Yeah, we help them out with electronics, but and whatever our they get basically our start map that we're going to start with, the chassis and the electronic side, and then they can tune from there. We're always open door whenever they have a question. They can come over. Robbie Peterson, Cameron's dad, Robbie Peterson, kind of famous racer for his time.
Yeah, legend.
And nice guy, and he's working with that team as well.
Okay.
And it takes time to get your head around these superbikes and getting the most out of it.
Yeah.
Jake didn't exactly light the world on fire the first year, even though he did finish well. It took him the full first year to get to start riding that motorcycle at the level it was intended to be ridden at.
Right.
So I think it's a big change for that ADR team, and they're kind of taking their lumps right now.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out, but we're always there to help them as much as we can.
So what was the deal with Dave? Like, he just gave up his bike to Bobby and rode a different bike? Like,
I don't know what the dynamic is there. I mean, that's a question for Dave.
Okay.
I know that he likes to race. And,
I got to scumbag him into being on the show.
Yeah, I think he's like owner operator, right?
Right.
So I remember when I was racing, I was building bikes and I was doing all that stuff. It was very, very difficult to do everything, stay up real late. Your training goes by the way of the dodo. You're not very fit when you get to the racetrack. You're always tired and you're mentally exhausted, and it becomes no fun. So I think that's where he was at. And he probably has a sponsor that wants to see some results or something too. Okay. So you can't be all tired and beat up and driving the semi and doing all those things and race the motorcycle as well. It just doesn't work out. And so I think that maybe that's where he was at. That's just a guess on my part. And he said, well, maybe if we put a fast guy on it, he's going to do well. I thought Bobby would do better than he did. But they were on a little bit of on the struggle bus trying to make him comfortable. There's like ergonomics issues with the bike, the seat height and fuel tank design and things like that. So talking to their guy that designed all that stuff and try to point him in the right direction he sat on our bike and thought it was more comfortable than what they had. It's nothing they can't fix for the next race, but maybe it'll help Dave as well. Maybe Dave will get back on the bike. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Well, Dave was on a 750 and he was actually ripping. I think he was top 5 until he threw it away. And
was he on a 750 or was he on a R6?
I think he was on a 750, man. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Because I know he has an R6 as well, so I don't know if he rode that. I have no idea. But yeah, it was in the top 5.
I'm sure he was on a 750. But
okay, you probably know better than
I could be wrong. I'm not Greg White over here,
Yeah. So I don't know what he was on, but yeah, he was riding that other bike, and I think he still wants to ride. I don't know if he just pressured himself or somebody pressured him. I don't think the team pressured him.
Yeah.
To let somebody else give it a go. I think what happens is you get a bike that's has a proven track record, but then you take the rider equation out of it and the comfort and all that stuff. And I know that they didn't have a lot of time because they went to Daytona to test. So they only showed up once before they start going to the Nationals. The Nationals is a terrible place to start getting comfortable with a motorcycle.
Right.
I think
at the beginning of the season, beginning of the year, he was like sick and stuff. I think he had the vid, missed most of the tests that he could have attended with us. Right?
Yeah. Well, he was getting ready for Daytona too, and then afterwards, like, man, I wish I didn't do that.
Right.
So we invited him to every test, wanted to help him, and I think just the timing didn't work out properly.
Yeah.
If he would have gone to all those tests and spent a bunch of time on the bike, got comfortable, got the ergonomics the way he wanted it, and then I think he could have been to the track and attacked straight away with whatever settings we gave him.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to learn it at the racetrack and trying to learn everything electronics and this and that. It's a lot. It's a lot to ask.
Yeah, Brian Green comments that Jake was wheeling out of turn 11 every lap. I guess he was up there and he took a marshalling gig so he could watch the race from the best seat in the house, right? So,
Yeah, we got a pretty good. We actually got a pretty good run out of turn 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think our bike we could. We're just trying to put the most power down we can.
Yeah.
And even though it's wheeling, it's still going forward, and you can see it in the acceleration of the bike.
Right.
So on the data. So we're constantly working on that. It's something I think that again, I think we missed a little bit on the rear chassis setup, and that was causing that problem a little bit more than it should have.
So Testa is asking, like, are you going to show up to Laguna with some pre-made maps based on what you think the new surface will be like, or run your base and adjust along the way?
Yeah, that's a Marshall question, but we will probably we will have a meeting on that and look at what happened at Road America and try to guess to what the surface is going to be. Nobody knows. That's the problem. So it's probably a safer bet to show up with some options you can do on the fly on the switches. So we have a lot of capability on the switches of the bike, just on the and then if you can get the rider to actually change them, you put it on there and you go, look, go do 5 laps. If you got this, do that, and you got this, do that. So try to have a plan ready, so that way you go, okay, this is what we learned at Road America, and this is what potentially could happen, but this is our gearbox selection and the way we're going to go about it. But Dunlop has no clue how the tire wear is going to be. So we could show up and go, okay, you're going to be on R8s, or you could be on R3s and everything's hunky-dory. I doubt it. More than likely, we're probably going to be on the hardest tires there are.
Wow, okay.
Because, like you said, if the track temp isn't up high, we know for a fact the R3 won't live.
Right, right.
So the R5 is kind of a bandage for the R3, you can say.
Yeah.
It's okay. But it still does the same stuff the R3 does. It still shreds at cold temperatures. So the only way and then when you go up to R7, because they don't have an R6 for whatever reason, they don't have an R1 for whatever reason either. It must be a Yamaha thing. So they don't have an R1, R6, so you go straight from R5 to R7. The R7 did all the same stuff at Road America as the R8, just didn't last.
Okay.
And the R8 offered decent grip, it just had really bad corner entry character.
Wow.
That you had to get your head around.
That's where the skidding the tires at Road America, right? Like that's.
Yeah, it just backs in, big momentum slide.
Yeah.
I got no grip. So we'll have to look at our chassis and see if we can do something to make that corner entry stuff better. We have some ideas.
So Brandon Wilson says, is rider weight less significant on the super bikes compared to smaller bikes?
Ask Batista.
Yeah, Scott Redding, right?
Yeah, ask Scott Redding and Batista. I mean, Batista's that's not the same motorcycle, obviously, they develop every year, but dude, Batista's a little midget, but he's riding like a big guy. So yes, rider weight has a big influence on the way the bike works.
And then Badass 1G.
In good and bad ways, like Top Rack can move his body around and get grip and traction and, muscle the thing around.
Right.
He's a tall guy. Very skinny, tall guy, but
super skinny.
Batista's able to move his body around and do all the things the bike is capable of doing.
Yeah. And then that Badass 1G asks if Jake's having any arm pump issues since that surgery.
No.
I didn't think so.
No, he's got a hell of a handshake too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
He's not a gummy fish?
No. None of these, Starbucks handshake.
Right. Starbucks handshake. That's or a NorCal handshake.
Yeah, whatever kind of handshake.
Okay, so then what's that guy? Same guy asks, what's the ideal wide open throttle AFR for most power to keep the engine safe?
Yeah, when you find that out with this fuel, let me know.
Yeah.
It seems to change regularly. Well, this fuel says it was 1403, I think, on the Stoic. So then you take a percentage of that, your lambda ends up like 8990, so you end up with like 12.6, 12.8. But then you find out that the fuel is really 1408, and so if you're running 8.9 lambda, you're like 13.2 or something like that, you know. So then you end up going, wow, this thing's way too lean. So you end up having to run a 8.5, 8.6, 8.7, you know, that lambda to get it down to the 12.5, 12.6 area.
Wow, man.
So you really have to just put the thing on the dyno, do the best you can with it, and then throw a safety factor. Like if you're running the thing at 12.8 for max power for that particular fuel, it depends on the fuel. Every fuel is a little different. That's why they have if you look at any fuel spec sheet, they all have a stoichiometric number, and that's what one lambda would be. That's when you're using up, you having a complete burn of the fuel at 1.0 lambda. I think we talked about this where Formula One's running 1.4 lambda, so they're actually running it way, way, way leaner and getting away with it. But they have special pistons, special injectors, special spark,
Right.
special everything, right? We can't do that. So we have to run the thing burbling rich to be able to keep the things alive. So I would, if as suggestion, if the bike makes best power like a 13.0, I would probably drop it down a couple points, 12.8, you know, just to make it safe.
All right.
Same thing with timing.
So, any special plans for Laguna besides trying to win the fucking thing? Like,
I don't know that Hawaiian joint there. I can't remember the name of it. It's pretty damn good. We always go there and eat.
dude, I was gonna try to scumbag you guys into the secret sushi spot on Thursday night.
Yeah, that'd be good too. Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night will work. I
Yeah.
think so. But that
Yeah.
Hawaiian, we always go there. I can't remember the name of it, but we'll turn this on to that, and it's pretty
Yeah.
damn good. You got a good jerk chicken.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll have to do that. Yeah. We always
It's
end
always
up.
busy,
We have
though.
like
That's
we have our traditional shit that we do in Monterey every year, right?
Yeah, I think it was called Hulas, maybe something
Yeah.
like that.
That Hula's sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll
always
fact check.
busy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a small place.
Yeah. Well, this secret sushi spot's actually in Salinas, like right across from the rodeo.
Oh, really?
Shit, I said it out loud. It's no longer a secret.
Not
I
very
guess.
secret.
But yeah, I mean, it's a spot that I've been going to for like 10 years, and man, it's
Is it as
great.
good as what do you call it in Huntington Beach?
Sushi on Fire? Probably not. Sushi on Fire is a lot higher level, but it's pretty good,
Oh
dude. It's pretty
man,
good.
see, if it's not as good as Sushi on Fire, I'm just gonna be bummed out.
You are such a snob, man.
Yeah, but that place is really good.
Dude,
I mean, you know,
Sushi
once
on
you eat
Fire is
that,
really
it's like
good.
you can't
Yeah, I mean,
go
it's like,
downhill from there.
well, in Southern California, there's only one place that even matches Sushi on Fire. Sometimes it's even better. It's in Old Town San Diego. It's called Harney Sushi. Like Harney is still, I think, above Sushi on Fire, but not by much. But yeah,
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, you're in Salinas, bro. Like, what do you
Yeah,
expect,
never
right?
many options for sushi there, I guess.
Yeah, totally. So, okay. Well, you know what? Thanks for your time, Richard. And,
man.
wish you the best. Oh, shit. I'll see you next week, right?
All right.
Actually, I may come down and pedal at the shop and bug you because I'm off all of next week. I'm off Friday. Got to get all that seat time in for that charity bicycle ride. So, and it looks like you're going to run to the crapper.
No, I'll read this on the way home while I'm driving. It's a
Oh,
little dangerous, but I don't mind. Well,
oh yeah. Okay. Right on.
all right, man.
All right, dude. Well, thank you, and everybody, thank you for watching the show. Share, like,
All 5 of you.
subscribe. All. Dude, there was like 70 something for a while. Like, so,
Wow.
yeah, dude. So I always,
That's like-
it's weird. Most of the views I get, all of your videos blow everybody's away. I don't.
Really?
Yeah, you're super
The
popular.
rest of the guys are boring and they suck.
No, there was just one that was really boring. Well, kind of Chiquetto was a little boring.
Even
last time.
Chiquetto, who's like normally a bunch of laughs, he gets on your show and he sucks.
dude.
What's up with that guy?
I have high hopes for him. I think he's gonna come back. I'll get him to come back.
Well, I'm friends with everyone, and I wish they would all come. No, you just said you hate that dude to me. And you hope he burns in hell. And then he goes, oh, he's my friend, and we're going to have dinner together. And
I really like Chiquetto, but man, the last show that we did, it was like Yamaha was over his head with a gun to his head, like he was a hostage. And I was like, come on, bro. Like, that's not the way this works.
Zero fun.
But yeah, like all of my guests, except for you, because I don't have to tell you this, but like I have some what I call non-negotiables, and that's one of the things that's a non-negotiable. So like,
yeah, you have to tell the truth and be fun. But he comes in our truck, and it's really easy to get sidetracked. He just starts telling all these stories, all these funny stories, all this stuff. He gets on your show, and he just says nothing for like an hour and a half. What is wrong with that dude?
You know what, man? Like maybe he was just. Maybe next time I'll have him have a couple of bong rips or something before he joins the show.
He looked like he had a couple of bong rips. He looked like he was about ready to go to sleep.
Maybe, dude.
Maybe he was thinking about his pizza he's gonna have later on.
Oh man, I'm gonna hear about this next week too. This is really
I don't care.
I don't either.
All right, man.
All right, dude. Safe trip.